well, then you started setting boundaries. And so Jillian says that when you start setting boundaries, the people around you will notice. And they will either accommodate and adjust to your boundaries, or they'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? And, like, start testing it or pushing back against it because you're changing the way that they are used to you.
You're changing the status quo.
This is the I'm Uncomfortable podcast, the podcast for people who want to be okay with being uncomfortable. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Melissa.
We have got some exciting topics to talk about with you all. This one's pretty juicy.
And pretty relevant and pretty recent.
Evelyn makes her debut.
Welcome, Evelyn, to the show.
Imagine? That would be so chaotic.
That would be. Where would she?
She would be
in the middle. Right?
Yeah, but she'd be so mad. If you're new, Evelyn is my mom. Today we're talking about moms.
Our issues with our mommies.
Mommy issues. I hate saying that. It sounds so gross. But before that, we're going to start with what's making us uncomfortable lately.
Besides the title of this episode.
Mine is that I haven't pooped yet today. Didn't poop yesterday. And also we're in this studio right now. That's not the normal studio because Evelyn said that we were going to pick her up. So I asked
this area that we're at.
I asked specifically if Melissa could book a studio in this area for Evelyn. And then she's like, oh, so blah, blah, blah is going to drive me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I thought I was driving you. That's why I did
arranged.
Yeah. And she, well, of course she doesn't realize. And she's like, oh, well, you can still pick me up if you want. And I was like, no, I'm not going to just pick you up now. Like, you're already going to go.
You already have plans.
You've made a plan, whatever. And now I haven't pooped because I've been stressed about it probably.
Yeah. But if you're also a longtime listener of this podcast, Vanessa constantly has problems with her pooping schedule. Not to call you out even more, but I've known Vanessa for a very long time, since 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah. And
this has always been an issue.
It started many years ago.
But anyways, we'll move on to my uncomfortable moment. I have cramps. As we are recording this right now. You haven't pooped, I have cramps. It's
wonderful.
Great. We'll just
all the issues over here.
We'll just have all of the lower
I hope I don't get to
abdomen
that point.
issues.
Anyway,
that's where we're at. Being a woman is hard.
Yeah, it is. Not pooping is also hard, so.
Yeah, that's true.
If you struggle like I do, call the number below. Imagine.
Sponsored
by
Pepto-Bismol. I mean, Pepto-Bismol, if you want to sponsor us.
I'd be down. Or Tums. I pop those like candy.
Yeah.
In fact, I buy the candy ones.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
Yeah,
actually.
those are really good.
Those are kind of dangerous that they taste that good.
Yeah, and they're like Skittles.
Yeah, they're like Skittles. Anyways.
Taste the medication.
Taste the rainbow.
Okay, so we're talking about moms today. My mom is the reason that we're even here in this specific place. I mean, here, like, in life, yes.
Well, yes. Vanessa, you were birthed by your mom. Just like, just a reminder.
Okay, so we hung out with her yesterday because she wanted to get the new iPhone for herself.
Yes.
I mean, not for herself, for me. And I said, why don't you just buy the new iPhone for you?
I asked you this too because you were telling me this as like this is going to be part of your itinerary when you're in town. I was like, wait, so she's getting a new phone, but it's going to be your old phone because she doesn't want the new phone because she thinks
it's too much change for her, which like maybe I mean the screen would be bigger, but like
you are also struggling with the new
that's
phone.
Fair. Okay, struggling is a little harsh.
Okay, fine.
But, like, actually, yeah. So I do see why that would be a big shock for her.
Yeah.
So she's going to get my old phone, and then, and it's fine. But we were in the car yesterday, and Ross was like, I can feel your stress. Oh. And I was like, oh, oops. I was just, like, operating on, like, a really intense level.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
I feel like that is that's what happens when you cross over to this section of the state.
I like drive down and my blood pressure increases slowly. Yeah.
You're coming north to south, but your blood pressure is rising.
I swear to God, as soon as I leave Los Angeles, like I'm over the mountain, I'm like
there's fresher air there. There's less pollution in the air.
It's just better.
I get it. It's less.
There's less cars.
Less cars and congestion.
Getting here, he was like, "How many freeways am I gonna have to go on? Why are there so many freeways?"
That's very
yeah. But the moment that we decided to talk about this was because we both texted each other. It was like, my mom is making me so angry.
Yeah.
Melissa was like, mine too.
And it was a series of like audio messages sent back and forth. And
it's a lot of things. It's lack of boundaries or assumptions.
Yeah.
And just lots of different layers of issues that we have with our mom.
yeah, and it's like one of those things where it runs very deep, and it's been at least for me, I think for both of us, it's been something that we've both been struggling with through our whole adult lives.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, as adults wanting to have relationships and maintain relationships with our moms,
Yes.
it's quite difficult when there is a lack of boundaries, and then you establish certain boundaries, and then you need to try and enforce these boundaries.
Yeah.
And all of that, it's hard. It's hard in general to enforce boundaries,
Mhm.
but when it's with your mom,
It's even harder.
it's even harder.
Well, my therapist says. I feel
We
like
should
there
just
should
have
be
a segment. Every episode
there should be like a theme that comes up.
Yeah.
Jillian says.
Jillian says, and then a little pop-up box.
Okay, well, I've been through this boundary setting journey with my mom for years,
Yeah.
starting with me leaving for college.
Yes.
Put like hella distance between us. And she accused me at the time. She was like, "You're just moving like to that college because you're going to be far away from me." And at the time, I was like, "No, you're overreacting. Don't be silly." But looking back, like, yeah, actually.
I mean, I think that is normal though for any person growing up and going off to
It is
university.
a normal instinct, I think.
Yeah, to like want to develop that sense of independence and like
Yes.
what it's like to not be so close to your
Mhm.
immediate family. I mean, I didn't go as far as you did, but I went
Pretty far.
pretty far.
Like,
far
you went
enough.
far enough that you can't just drive back on a weeknight.
And they can't just drive back because my mom thinks it's far to go from Carson to Torrance.
So she's not driving to
No,
San
no,
Diego.
no.
No. Okay, so the first step was physical distance.
Yeah.
And I've maintained my physical distance, but you went back.
No, yeah.
And so
After 5 years of living in San Diego,
Mhm.
I ended up moving back to the family house, and I have been there ever since.
Yeah.
So,
well, then you started setting boundaries.
Mhm.
And so Jillian says that when you start setting boundaries, the people around you will notice. And they will either accommodate and adjust to your boundaries, or they'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? And like start testing it or pushing back against
Yeah.
it because you're changing the way that they are used
you're
to you.
changing the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
No, stick to the status quo.
Way to show our age. I love it so
Yeah.
much. Okay, but so you started setting boundaries with your mom. What are some of the boundaries that you set with her?
I've been trying to saying being less accommodating isn't the right word. I think I've just been very over accommodating with my time, just with my family in general.
Okay.
I think I've said yes to a lot of things that have inconvenienced me,
Mm-hmm.
and I constantly. And plus, we've talked about this before. We're covering people pleasers. We're trying to get over that kind of inclination to just say yes to things and do things for people,
Yes.
whether they ask for it or not, which is assumptions on my end sometimes. So I feel like the boundary that I've been trying to work on and trying to enforce for maybe the past like handful of years has been separating myself from like my first obligation all the time is to my family.
Yes.
Which sounds bad when it comes out of my mouth, but maybe it's just that guilt that I constantly feel.
Yeah. I think there's a balance because it's like, yes, you want to do things for your
Yes,
family.
of course. Like I want to be there for my family.
But I think the thing is, the lack of boundaries means they expect you to just like do things and know to do things that you haven't been asked to do. And they assume then that you will do these things whether you're asked to or not.
Right.
Whether you have plans or not.
Right.
Or
Like the audacity for me to have plans.
how dare
That
you?
is not.
How dare you have your own life?
Exactly. So those are the kind of like, we're laughing about it, but those are the kinds of
Those-
things
yeah.
where it's like all weaved into this sense of obligation that I
Yes.
feel I have to my family,
Yeah.
which, you know, it's tough sometimes to identify that line. So I feel like there's been a lot of, especially during the holidays, I feel like there's extra pressure.
Yeah.
I do a lot of things for the family during the holiday season for our like big family gathering. And it's like, okay, I organize all of the activities, but then it's like also I'm expected to contribute to the potluck and like text all the people and like make sure people get there on time, and it's just tis a lot for this season. Or just in general, like, you know, like I just feel like that's kind of what triggered it this time when I was like, Vanessa.
Do you want to talk about Christmas card gate?
Yeah!
Because that's really what did it.
Yeah, so as we're recording this, it's the holiday season.
Yeah.
I thought it would be cute to like make a holiday card because it makes me happy for me and my partner. And I was like, oh, look, this is cute. And then my mom, I don't even think I told him this, but because I just told you. Then I was over it. So I was just like, okay, we move on. We don't need to bring it up again. But I was like, look, I made a Christmas card. And she's like, oh, so did you make the family's Christmas card? And I was like, what? I didn't know that was my job. My job. Yeah. So I was just like, oh, okay. No. I did not, but here are the resources that I used to get the card, to make the card. And she kind of gave me like the attitude of like, oh, well, like as if
she scoffed at you.
Yeah, I did say that she did
scoffed. I know the scoff. I know the scoff quite well. And if you're listening and you have known the mom scoff, then you know it as well.
It's like a dagger.
Yeah. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah. It's like, oh, and then she kind of just walked away. She's like, all right, well. And then of course I was all up in my feels about it. I was just like, wait, what did I was just sharing a happy moment that I thought was like a fun little thing that I did for myself that she Psych. I'm selfish.
Yes.
So that's how I felt after that interaction. And so I was like kind of ruminating on that a lot. And I was like, why do I feel guilty for doing something that made me happy? It's because there was that unspoken obligation that I had to my family to also, if I'm doing something for myself, you should also do it for your family. Yes. That's that obligation that I was like, oh.
She assumed that you would just naturally take on the responsibility of making this card that she never asked you to make.
Yeah.
And she would actually never have thought about it if you probably hadn't brought up the card in the first place.
Well, no, that's not, not entirely true because I know my mom typically makes the Christmas family card.
But why would it be?
And so, and I know that part of her complaint in past years was that we don't have a good family picture. So I know throughout the year, whenever there's a family gathering, I was like, we should take a family picture so that you'll have family pictures
to choose from
the Christmas card.
Jesus Christ.
And then, but I guess
you're out here planning for the year. You're like, let me just get ahead of it.
I guess maybe that planning to her in her brain was like, oh, she's planning for the Christmas card because she's gonna make it.
Yeah.
But no. I was just laying the groundwork for her to do that. But I guess
Well, what are some of the ways that you have tried to set boundaries over the years that you feel like she's been? Because you don't just say, you're like, hello, mother, today I would like to set a list of boundaries. Like, you don't just, like, show up and do it.
No, I think it is being okay with saying no to her. Not exactly, like, no straight up, but whenever things are, like, some of the joke is, and some of my friends is that I'm Mom Lissa, like, to my younger brother. I pick up a lot of the, like, pseudo-parenting, picking up at school, dropping them off here, dropping them off to practice, whatever it is. I end up assuming those kinds of roles because, and we talked about this too, it's like, maybe it's the proximity because I am at home and available. Yeah. But also, I could be at home, but I'm working on something else. Just because I'm at home doesn't mean I'm not doing anything that requires my attention and time.
Yes.
So, first of all, like, saying, oh, I'm not available, and also trying to, like, be clear with my schedule and, like, being open with that so that they can know, too, and start planning around that if they do need my time. So giving them that kind of that power to be like, oh, okay, are you available to ask me versus, like, assume. Yeah.
That you'll just do it, that you're free, that you can make it,
So, like, she does ask me, but then before it would be like, she would ask me, and then I'd be like, I'm not available, and she'd be like, ugh. you know?
The scoff.
The scoff.
The scoff.
And then I'm like, okay, then that makes me feel bad for having the plans.
Yeah.
So instead, I've been trying to like, I got a little magnetic board that has a calendar. Here's all the things that I have.
You wrote it down. That's wild.
I try to at least get updated, like keep updated with that, and also just offering alternatives too. I'm like, I'm not saying no outright, but if there's a way we can compromise on it, or I have an older brother that also is
You're not the only
potentially
one.
available.
Yeah.
Like, he also my younger brother also talks about how he doesn't, he wants to see my older brother all the time. So like, opportunity. If he picks them up from school, they could talk and hang out, So I'm trying to reframe that I'm not the only one that should be the person that's picking up those kinds of responsibilities. So,
do you ever wonder if there's like a gender dynamic where it's like, caretaker vibes, like you're the sister.
I'm the woman.
Yeah.
You're telling me, and this was something that I guess I didn't really like think about until you brought it up, was maybe I am this, like, maybe she sees me as an extension of her. And I was like, well, maybe.
I mean, I guess you see your kids as an extension of you kind of like always. But I also wonder in your family specifically, because I'm the only child, so there's just me.
Yeah.
Which, like, for better or for worse, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I had a sibling so she could deflect her attention, but other times I'm like, then that would be too much chaos. I can't imagine two of us having to deal with her and it being this, like,
Or
crazy triangle. Yeah. Or 3. God forbid. She wanted 10.
Your mom?
Yeah. One time she told me she wanted 10 kids, and I was like, in what freaking universe? Our Lord and Savior knew better than to give you more than one child.
It's like, one is enough.
You're okay with just one.
Let's focus on this one project.
It's the one for you. Yeah. But for you have, you're the middle now, but that's kind of weird because you weren't the middle for forever. You were like the girl, the baby girl.
Yeah.
And now you're like the older sister.
Yeah.
And he's so much younger than you that I don't know, it just feels like maybe that's also like a role. Jillian always talks about sibling dynamics and sibling order and how that's important.
I would love to talk to her about sibling dynamics.
Technically, you're like the middle child now, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because you were the baby for so long.
And honestly, I didn't really care about being middle child. I was like, they usually leave me alone. Typically, a lot of the attention is to the younger one, which is fine. I don't like,
you're cool with that.
That's great. Because I could just be like, whoop, and just leave the picture. And no one will notice, typically. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
I wish producer Liz were here because I know that she shared specifically about sibling.
The eldest.
She's not.
She's the middle?
She is the middle.
Oh, wow.
But she also has this thing where her younger sister is much younger than her, and she was at home for a while. An older sibling wasn't there. Yeah. It's very similar, and a lot of the responsibility has fallen to her, and so it's kind of like she is pseudo mom. Yeah. At times. So.
Which. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy having that kind of like special relationship that I have with my brother. It's like my younger brother, it's allowed me to like, be closer to him in certain ways. But I've also emphasized like throughout this time of him being in this world that like I am your sister. Yeah. I am not your mom.
Yeah.
Even though I do take up some of these responsibilities and do these things and give you advice and whatever it is, it's like I'm still doing this from the perspective of being your sister. Because I ain't no mom.
No, we've avoided being teen moms for a really long time. We tried really hard.
Okay, but we talked about me for a long time. Let's talk about your mom issues.
Well, I was going to ask about assumptions, because I feel like a lot of my issues with my mom specifically revolve around her assuming.
We like to talk about how, like, they think we can read their mind.
Yes. Mind readers.
So your mom wanted you to know through mind reading that she didn't need you to pick her up
Correct.
Anymore.
And that she would have my ex-stepdad take her instead. Yeah. And, like, she had made this whole plan. And then when I was on the phone with her, she, like, assumed that I would just, like, know that.
But are they just, like, not remembering anymore and they're just getting older?
Okay, low-key, I'm also a little... And then on the phone yesterday, when I was talking to her about the plan, she was like, yeah, you're going to pick me up. And I was like, no, I'm not picking you up. We already talked about this. We already went over this, like, 3 times. I'm not picking you up anymore. You're on your own. You're... sounds so harsh. She's not on her own.
No, she's
but
not.
she has her way of getting there that
Yeah.
she had already decided was
On
gonna
her own.
on her own.
Mhm.
And she had no idea I was staying with Michael, so she didn't know that I was close to Eagle
Yeah.
Rock. Like, this is not. She didn't think through this. She
Yeah,
just
yeah.
did her thing and then
Mhm.
assumed that I would like know what to do. And I feel like my stress levels are heightened when I'm around her because I don't know.
She's unpredictable. She's a wild card. You don't know what she's
She's
gonna
a wild
do.
one.
You don't know what card she's gonna play
Well,
next.
on the way to the mall, she's like, "Yeah, we also got to go to Nordstrom's," and I was like, "Since when? When were you gonna tell me that? Not that it was it was right there. It was fine.
Yeah.
But I was just like, okay, this is fine. She just she just has her thing, and I do worry. I worry about like if this is gonna be me. You know, I do remember like my mom is a human. Like she's just a girl,
She's just a girl. I sometimes have to remind myself of that.
and I'm just a girl.
We are just girls.
We're all just girls. I can't be expected to remember things. That's probably what she thinks all the time.
Probably.
And she's busy living her own life too. And our relationship has gotten a lot better over the years. One, because I've been in therapy, but also because I
Can you
think.
imagine if she also went to therapy too? Like, can you imagine how much more progress
Would be
could
made.
Yeah.
When we were in Greece, so was it 2 summers ago now?
Yeah.
And we were having that like meltdown
Yeah.
because she was being really annoying, like
very like putting all the responsibility on
to
this
plan
trip.
everything, and all she was doing was complaining. And I was like, if you have nothing nice to say, then you plan it next time. Like you
Yeah.
made me do everything.
Yeah.
And I found out, I think I told you, so I was, okay, if you weren't there for that part of our season, we had taken a trip, my mom and I, and she made me plan everything. And she was like, you'll book our tickets, you'll book the hotel, you book all the tours, literally everything.
Yeah.
And then we got to like our third destination, and she was complaining about how far it was, how expensive things were. And the person at the desk could see that I was getting so agitated.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, like, it's all expensive no matter what because there's no taxis. Like, you have to call a personal car, like, anywhere that you stay. And they were, like, trying to calm her down. And they could see me, like, melting.
Yeah.
And then we're in the room the next morning, and they deliver us this beautiful breakfast. And I forgot what she said that, like, set me off. And I was like, all you're doing is complaining. You didn't plan anything. And all you're doing is complaining. And then she turned it around on me somehow.
Yeah, I remember you telling me, and I was like, wait, how did it become...
I don't know how it became my fault.
But there's some way that they are like very good at turning it. You're like, wait, hold on.
What?
When did that happen?
Like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're always blah, blah, blah to me. I was like, since when? But then later, once we calmed down, we had I forgot what the discussion was about, but she had said that she had contemplated going to therapy. And I was like, could you go now?
Can we open your phone and schedule the appointment now?
But I don't know, but it's gotten better because through therapy, they're like, I have learned how to set more boundaries, whether it's like by sharing, like, I can't do this, but I can do this.
Yeah.
Right? Because
compromise.
before I would just be like, no, and then she'd be like, you're selfish, and then it's like, and then you're fighting about it, right? So it's like giving alternatives.
Mhm.
I think too, it's being more clear about my expectations and my plan.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, maybe like she assumes that I can read her mind, and I'm assuming that she's not making other plans.
Yeah.
You know, and I could have probably asked her
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
the communication piece.
Communication.
Yes. And then I think just like asking her questions sometimes, like, what did you mean by that? Or like, did you mean to say this?
Asking
Or
clarification.
because sometimes she doesn't mean it. Like this whole thing about my ex, she and they would fight all the time.
Yeah.
And later on, I realized because I asked her, she's like, oh, but that's just my way of like making conversation. Because she would like.
Fighting?
No, like it would be a fight because she would say like clickbaity shit. She'd be like,
Oh.
"Oh, did you know that this company that you work for is doing this?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "First of all, it's a massive company. I'm not even in that department.
Yeah.
And also, I don't represent this company. And I'm not at work. I don't want to talk about it." But like that was her way of making conversation.
Yeah, that was the only way that
And
she
I thought
knew.
she was just trying to be like antagonistic.
Yeah.
But I guess not.
Yeah.
So just asking like, "Hey, like do you realize you're making this person feel that way? Or do you realize that it's sounding like this? Or what did you actually mean?"
Yeah.
I've
been
learned a
doing
lot that she doesn't mean what I think she means.
No, I didn't realize I was doing that too, but I was, I try to ask clarifying questions to her because I know that the default mode that my mom goes into is defensive mode.
Yes.
And I'm like, I only brought this up.
I think it's a trauma response though.
Yeah, I only brought this XYZ subject up.
Yeah.
to ask to get clarification. Like I have to like stop in my tracks sometimes, and I'm like, I'm
Because
not
you get
attacking
defensive.
you. Yeah.
She gets defensive, and you get defensive right back.
And then we're just fighting. We're just throw hands.
It's on site.
like literally in 3 seconds, and
Yeah.
we're starting to fight.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's interesting because you can see like they switch to that mode, and I'm like, no, we're not fighting.
I'm just asking.
I'm just asking a question, or like I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
Because when I bring something up, she's like, I didn't put that there, or like whatever it is, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I wasn't assuming that
That
you did that, or
Mhm.
I'm not blaming you or putting this blame on you. I'm just asking or stating this.
But they do think they're being blamed a lot.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's a mom thing.
Maybe it's like a mom guilt.
Because one time
thing.
she goes, you always blame me. And I was like, blame? Like, what are you talking about? But she had a whole backstory for that I can't remember at this point in time. But no, the other thing that I've tried to do with my mom is I will, because, what's it called? Like, I feel myself getting stressed when I'm around her.
Mhm.
And so I just try to, like, take some deep breaths and also just, like, remind myself that, like, it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And to, like, just brush it off. Because sometimes I think I jump in. So, like, for example, if she is having some type of situation, whether it's in front of me or she's just talking about it, I used to get really, like, annoyed or angry, worked up about the way that she was handling it, or, like, I felt like she was, like, doing it the wrong way or whatever. And now I'm just like, if I ask questions, I will get answers that I don't want to hear. So I'm going to let you live your life and just, you do you, and I will listen without, we listen, we don't judge.
But I mean, you can judge in your head,
Right.
but you don't have to verbalize.
I caught myself too, like yesterday she was saying something that I thought was like between her and my ex-stepdad and it was like dumb. And I caught myself being like, that's stupid. But then I like, why are you doing this?
If you were to say that out loud or say something to that effect out loud, it would just start.
Before it would start a fight, but now it doesn't so much. Because before I would get into it. Like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't do that. Like, I thought I knew better. But I'm like, you know what? She's been operating like this for years.
Yeah.
So, like, the thing that she did, I'll just tell people because whatever, who cares? So we went shopping and we went to Nordstrom and she bought herself these tennis shoes. And we had gotten her a Christmas gift. And so she was like, oh, if he's at the house, just say that this gift, like the shoes, were part of your gift to me. And I was like, why? And she was like, because I don't want him to think that I have money. And I already know that. She's told me this. Like, I know the reason.
Yeah.
Like, Toxic Relationship 101. So if you missed that episode of ours, you should tune in. It was a good one.
Yeah.
But so, like, she was like, yeah. So we used to hide the purchases in the car so he wouldn't know. Or, in this case, she wants me to say that the shoes came from me, even though she bought them for herself because she doesn't want him to think, whatever, for whatever reasons that she has, right? And then so
it reminds me of the scene from Crazy Rich Asians where that girl, she bought the earrings, but she
Yes.
has all of the like maids hide
yes.
all of her purchases.
So he doesn't know.
So he doesn't feel less of a man.
Because he can't buy it for her. Ugh, classic.
Okay.
Whatever. But yes, that. Okay, so same vibe, but not rich. And and I caught myself being like, that's like, why? And then I was like, you know what?
I'm gonna let it be.
You say, I think I said to her, I was like, you say whatever you want, and I won't say anything at all. Like, right? Like, you say
That's
what
a
you
great response.
You say what you want. I won't say anything. If
Yeah.
that's the choice you want to make, who am I? Whatever.
This is the island you want to live on?
Yeah, yeah. And she's been there for a while. She set up a whole house, so
She's got the setup going.
she got her bahay kubo. She's there. She's thriving. Well, she's living. So I just let her be now instead of trying to give advice or trying to step in. Because that's when shit gets hairy, is when I step in and I think I'm trying to help, but really they don't want your help. And so it just becomes a fight. Because then they're like, you think you know better than me? Which, like, you know what?
Actually, maybe I don't.
Maybe I don't. I'm just a baby.
I'm the baby.
I'm just a baby.
I'm just a girl.
So that could be something that you try.
Yeah, I need to do less of that.
Yeah, it's hard though. But for people who are listening, we always share ways for people to be more comfortable.
Oh shoot, I forgot.
Get ready. So for me, one is just like, don't step in. If you can help it, if it's not violent, if no one's gonna be hurt, just let them solve their own problems.
Yeah.
And producer Liz actually shared a story with me recently about how she kind of just like let them be and didn't step in, and it worked itself out. Like they are capable of dealing with their own stuff.
Yeah.
And they're adults.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I don't step in as much, and I don't ask questions if I don't want the answer.
I don't step in as much either, But then it's always funny. I'm like, okay, this is the time. I'm gonna step in.
No.
No.
It doesn't help. So don't step in.
Yeah.
Another one we said was ask questions, seek to understand. That one's hard. Did you mean this? What did you actually want to say?
I think that's the biggest one for me. It's like, okay, let's not leave, because in the past we'd have conversations and just kind of leave it at that weird spot.
Yeah.
Versus taking the initiative to like clarify, because they're not going to, because like you said, they've been operating in this way, in this communication style for so long.
Yeah, it's like whatever their trauma response is.
It's the next generation's like therapy healing work that allows us to come back and ask these clarifying questions.
Even in Greece, we didn't leave the conversation all blah, blah, blah. Like, I came back to it, and I was like, what did you mean? But I had to do it. Yeah. And I think part of it, too, is then accepting that you might have to be the one to bridge the gap in terms of conversation, because they just won't.
Which is hard sometimes. So, you know, it takes practice for sure.
I kept telling myself when I was younger, I'd be like, well, she's the mom, or like, she's the adult. Like, she should know better. But those are lots of shoulds, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, whatever. So I just approach it now. I'm like, hey, let's talk about it. Hey, girl.
What's up, my dude?
And then my other tactic is remove yourself physically.
Oh, I do that a lot.
If you could just step away, get some space, sometimes that'll fix the problem.
It'll fix me.
At least temporarily.
Temporarily, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I won't be reactive. You know, it'll give me the space to like think of the clarifying questions that I'll come back with, or like calm myself down before I say anything that I regret, because I need to learn from their mistakes and not be so reactive. You know what I mean? Okay.
So if you're having mommy issues just like
call 1-800-MOMMY issues. Don't call that number. I don't know what that is. I really don't. I don't know what that is.
That could be anything.
That could be anything.
Don't tell our listeners to go there, but tell them where to find us.
You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, maybe. I don't know if it's going to get banned by the time this comes out. Oh, yeah. But I'mUncomfortable.podcast. Follow us on Instagram. We're on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I don't know what that one is. That's a thing. So you can find us, listen to us, watch us, because we have both audio and video versions of our podcast, and also on YouTube. So subscribe. I do share Evelyn content quite often. Yes. So if you're a fan of the Evelyn content, tune in. Stay tuned for her Christmas outfits. Want more of the I'm Uncomfortable podcast? Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at I'mUncomfortable.podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Facebook group, the I'm Uncomfortable Club, to gain early access to our episodes and exclusive content. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.